John, you can start.
Good afternoon and welcome to our European Week of Regions and Cities online workshop. Hope you're all keeping well. My name's John Fitzgibbon from the Hampshire Brussels office, and I'm going to be your moderator this afternoon, linking you through the various interventions. On behalf of our conglomerate, Advanced Cities and Regions for a Greener Europe, our 5 regions led by Lower Saxony have brought together an excellent programme for you today under the title of Greener Regions for Europe. This is in fact our 13th consecutive year involved in the European Week of Regions and Cities, or Open Days as it used to be called, during which time we've covered a range of issues such as SME support, smart grids, maritime safety and security, digitisation, and today's focus, green issues, was the topic of last year's workshop too, such as the importance of this agenda. We're all trying to find ways to get to carbon neutrality by 2050. The UK resolutely shares this important goal. We will host the UN's COP26 at the end of next year in Glasgow, and our government has targeted the powering of all UK homes using wind energy by 2030. EU policymakers have set in motion a range of significant initiatives that you're going to be hearing from shortly, and they are really needed to stimulate and guide the implementers of this important agenda at the local, regional level. Circular economy, farm to fork, renovation wave, air pollution, plastics, green growth, renewables, green energy are just some of the initiatives that we at the local regional level need to address and act on to deliver this challenging agenda. Regions must work together on this and push each other along, and Europe as an exemplar in this area must influence other countries globally to take action. Please get them to stop cutting down the rainforests in Brazil and Africa. Perhaps you've seen David Attenborough's recent film available on Netflix, A Life on Our Planet, which in my view should be required viewing for everyone. Paints a frightening picture of global warming, melting polar ice caps, seas warming up, flooding, nature and biodiversity loss, and so on. All of these catastrophic events will happen in this century if we do not all urgently act. So the goal is clear. How can we get there? Today's presentations will enlighten us. Now, how can you get involved today? You can interact with us on Twitter using the hashtag GreenRegionsEU, and there will be an opportunity for questions at the end. I understand most, if not all of our speakers are staying. Please use the chat bar, make it clear to whom you're addressing the question. But before we hear from the European Commission Spokesperson for Climate Action and Energy, we've got a formal welcome address from our conglomerate's lead partner, Mrs. Birgit Horner, Minister for Federal and European Affairs and Regional Development at the Government of Lower Saxony. Frau Horner is also a member of the European Committee of the Regions, who are co-organisers of this regional policy event. Frau Ministerin, bitte sehr, please run the video.
Dear Mr. Mcphee, as the representative of the European Commission, representatives of our partner regions, ladies and gentlemen in Brussels and in front of your screens. As Minister for Federal and European Affairs and Regional Development of Lower Saxony, I would like to warmly welcome you also on behalf of our partner regions, Abruzzo, Lower Silesia, the North Netherlands provinces and Hampshire, to today's online discussion within the framework of this year's European Week of Regions and Cities. I would have preferred to welcome you in person at our representation in Brussels. Unfortunately, this is not possible due to the corona pandemic. I am therefore pleased that we are meeting virtually instead, because we must continue to exchange ideas also or especially in these times. My region, Lower Saxony, has been participating actively in the European Week of Regions and Cities for many years. It offers an excellent opportunity to learn from each other on the basis of best practice examples. The title of our event today is Regional Solutions for a Greener Europe. Ladies and gentlemen, Climate change has become one of the greatest challenges of our time. If we fail to act, droughts, storms and floods will threaten our planet and our livelihoods. Climate change must therefore be fought at all levels of government. And we must take appropriate measures to adapt to climate change. We cannot ignore it. I therefore welcome the EU Commission's European Green Deal with its ambitious approach to make Europe the first climate-neutral continent by 2050. In doing so, climate protection should be combined with sustainable and socially fair economic growth. We, as regions and cities, need a European Union that provides us with an ambitious framework coupled with trend-setting legislation and funding instruments that support transformation. This is why I support an ambitious climate target for 2030 in the EU climate legislation currently under negotiation. And I regard dealing with the consequences of the COVID-19 crisis as an opportunity for regional solutions for a greener Europe. The revised proposal for the EU's multi-annual financial framework with its reconstruction plan should be used for the Green Deal and climate protection. It is now mainly up to the Council to preserve this opportunity in the legislative process. However, we also need courageous people in the regions and cities to take up and implement these political impulses. In this process, we, as regions and cities, are important players achieving the targets for 2030 and 2050. One topic of great interest in this context is the use of so-called green hydrogen from renewable energies. In my state, Lower Saxony, we too consider it as a very important energy source for the future. Green hydrogen offers many opportunities for climate protection, innovation, value creation and employment in our regions. Likewise, in Lower Saxony, which is the #1 wind power region in Germany and an important industrial center for, amongst others, the chemical and steel sectors. I drew attention to this potential of green hydrogen in my report for the Committee of the Regions opinion of the 2nd of July towards an EU roadmap for clean hydrogen. Green hydrogen now requires special support at all levels in the framework of the Green Deal to become commercially viable, and I very much welcome the fact that many of the legislative and other measures called for the COR opinion are reflected in the European Commission's hydrogen strategy of the 8th of July. The EU hydrogen strategy also recognizes, with reference to my COR opinion, the role of European regions in developing a clean hydrogen economy. Ladies and gentlemen, in my region, Lower Saxony, we actively use the European Regional Development Fund to fund climate-friendly projects. By European standards, we are very innovative with this type of ERDF use. One project supported by ERDF funds, which represents Lower Saxony's contribution to a greener Europe, is the development and construction of a mobile hydrogen filling station. The hydrogen filling station is used by the world's first hydrogen-powered passenger train built in Lower Saxony by the company Alstom, where it is being operated in test mode. This hydrogen train will be presented to you later by Dr. Jens Sprotte from the company Alstom in Salzgitter. Ladies and gentlemen, I now wish you an interesting keynote speech by the representative of the European Commission, inspiring presentations by our partners, and a stimulating discussion. Thank you very much. Hopefully we see each other again soon in person. Thank you. Dear Mr.
Thank you very much, Frau Horner. That was an excellent introduction. So, setting the scene now, we've heard a lot about the EU Green Deal, and I'm delighted to say that we have Tim Mcphee from the European Commission, who is the spokesperson for climate action and energy. Tim, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, John. Good afternoon to everybody. I hope you can hear me okay. John's not interrupting, so I'm going to go ahead and hope you can.
Yeah, fine.
I've been out. Thanks. So yes, thanks for having me for this event. I'm really interested to listen actually to all the other speakers, as well as very pleased to talk to you now to kind of kick off the conversation. I've been asked to give a short presentation about the European Green Deal and to get into why this matters for your regions as you pursue sustainability and climate neutrality. It sometimes seems that there's a bit of a distance between us. You're very close to your citizens, and we're often perceived as being a step removed here in the European Commission in Brussels. But the message I want to give today is really that the regions are at the heart of the European Green Deal, I think, in everything we do in terms of policy making. And that goes all the way up to the people involved in the Commission. President von der Leyen herself, she spoke at the Committee of the Regions last week about the Green Deal, and she recalled at the time that she was elected to the local council of her hometown, and actually she became a cabinet minister in the government of Lower Saxony. If you think of Executive Vice President Frans Timmermans, who's responsible for the European Green Deal, if you've heard him speak about the just transition, for example, he would have no doubt mentioned that he comes from a region of the Netherlands which went through its own transition in the 1970s away from coal, and I think that's something that's very close to him personally and how he thinks about all these issues. As he always says, without a just transition, there would just be no transition. And I think if I can adapt that a little bit to my own words, I think if we don't reach out to the regions, there will just not be a Green Deal which reaches the regions. So it really is central to everything that we're doing. European level, of course, our job is to set the policy framework for a climate neutral continent by 2050, whereas your role is to look at climate neutrality in your regions. And I'm very interested to hear what the speaker from Hampshire has to say. I know that they're pursuing their own climate neutrality policy for 2050, and it's going to be interesting to see how that boils down to the local level. So what is the European Green Deal? You've probably heard many of these speeches and presentations, so I'll try and keep it a little bit shorter than you might have heard before and try and kind of focus on the things that I think would be of most interest to you. The Green Deal has now been on paper, on the table for almost a year. It was almost the very first thing that the von der Leyen Commission did. We took office on the 1st of December, and the Green Deal was then presented on the 11th of December. So really, straight after the starting gun was fired, we came out with the Green Deal. It's a transformative agenda. It's really something which touches on everything that we do policy-wise, and it touches on citizens' lives in everything they do. It's about the way we work, the homes we live in, the modes of transport we take, the nature around us, the food we eat, the products we buy off the shelves on the shops, or more and more these days online. So it's really, climate action has moved out of a silo which it had been sitting in for several years, and has really gone mainstream in the European Commission now. It was designed as well as a growth strategy. It was designed as an investment strategy, and that's how we presented it. I think in the current circumstances, it's really become a pillar of our economic recovery strategy as well in Europe. You will have all seen the level of investment which the Commission has proposed for its recovery package, Next Generation EU, and how central the green transition is to that. So I want to talk today about a few of the main pillars of the European Green Deal. I want to start with energy. Energy is still the biggest source of greenhouse gas emissions in Europe, and therefore it's the starting point for us when we think about reducing our climate footprint. The energy system in Europe and around the world has been changing over the course of months and years, and I think what we've seen is these changes accelerating with the COVID crisis. I think you see people thinking more and more about the need to invest fast in renewable energies, for example, and to make energy efficient investments as they look to spend their way out of the crisis. We need a new energy system. We're dealing with an energy system of the past, and we really need to think differently about the energy sources we use, about how we transport energy, about how most efficiently we use it in our products, things like eco-design, affecting the products in our homes. And that's why the Commission presented earlier this year the Energy System Integration Strategy, which is really the blueprint for what we're going to do for energy policy for the years ahead. So those of you working on this kind of topic, and I know our colleagues from Lower Silesia and the North Netherlands are very involved with the energy system, I'd really encourage you to look at that document and see a little bit the map of what European policy will look like in those fields for the years ahead. Of course, when you talk about energy, you talk about hydrogen, as the minister did in her welcoming speech, and I'm very curious to see what colleagues say about the work that they're doing on hydrogen. The Commission sees this really as it's been described as the new rock star in energy policy, because it allows us to decarbonize some of the sectors which are harder to electrify, for example. So that's one of the reasons why hydrogen is going to be a focus for policy and for investment. But of course, when you talk about energy to most citizens, what they think of is their home. They think about turning on the lights. They think about getting a hot bath or shower. And then they think about the bill that comes at the end of the month, lands on the doorstep or arrives in their inbox, telling them how much it costs. This is something which we're acutely aware of, and that was really one of the driving forces behind the renovation wave strategy, which was presented last week by the Commission. This is all about making the homes we live in, the buildings where we work, public buildings, more fit for purpose, making sure that they stand up to our climate ambitions. We're talking about things like installing renewable energy, things like solar panels on your roofs. We're thinking about things like insulation, better windows, and better heating and cooling products. These are all the things that people think of when you talk about energy, and this is going to be a big part of the Commission's work. We're looking, the target that we set last week is to double the renovation rate in the next 10 years. What that means in practice is we're looking to reach around 35 million buildings which are renovated by 2030. And we think in the process that will not only improve our climate footprint, but it's going to create jobs and local jobs. There's an estimation that will lead to 160,000 jobs in the construction sector. And of course, building, renovating, all these kind of things are local jobs. This is not something you outsource. Somebody's coming to your home and doing that work. And we're going to be investing in getting people set up with the skills they need, the training as well. There's a very strong social dimension to this policy. When you think about homes, it's not just somewhere where you sit and life happens, although it feels a bit like it sometimes at the moment. It's the point of departure and arrival for your transport. And the renovation wave will also think about transport, because electric vehicle infrastructure is something which could potentially be part of the renovation wave, making sure that you have plug-in points for electric cars, hybrid cars in the future, which increasingly people are going to be moving towards in Europe. we see the market is growing. It's grown in the last year, and no doubt will continue to do so. And there will be policy in place to encourage those changes. I think mobility is something which really, in a sense, it's harder to do, but more important for yourselves, for regions, than it is for city mayors, for example. It's easier to get around by foot, by bike in a city. Often the public transport network is denser, but it's really in the regions where people rely more on private transport. I think the Commission is really aware of this. You know, the Green Deal is not about getting everybody to give up their cars. I don't think that's realistic. What we do want is for people to have cleaner mobility options, private mobility, but also the public transport, and then the infrastructure that goes with it. And I'm sure that's a challenge that you all know. It's very easy to go and fill up your car with petrol and diesel these days. It's much harder to find somewhere to plug it in and charge up a battery, and that's why the market isn't going faster, because people are worried about the battery running out on a long journey, a short journey, even if the range is improving. And I'm sure that's something that your regions will be investing in. It's something that will be part of the renovation wave, people's homes, and the Commission will have a strategy later this year for sustainable transport and mobility, and we will look into this question of infrastructure as well. Of course, public transport, so many people depend on that for shorter and longer journeys. I know that myself. I grew up in, very much a regional story, which many of you will recognize. I grew up in a village of 10,000 people. I had a 10-kilometer journey to go to high school. So it's 45 minutes on a bus if that bus shows up, or you jump in the car with your parents as a teenager and you're at school in 20 minutes. And we all know what choice a lot of people make for simplicity in that case. So getting the public transport network up to speed and the private infrastructure, I think is really important. But I don't want to talk just about policy. I want to talk about grassroots initiatives, about communication, about the movement that we need to create as well. And that's something that the Commission is also dedicating itself to. President von der Leyen announced the creation of the European Climate Pact when she presented her political guidelines and priorities last summer. And the pact is really about harnessing all the enthusiasm that there is across Europe, from individual citizens, from regions, from mayors, from companies, from civil society. We know that there's people that want to take action on climate. We know that there's people that are already taking action and can inspire others. And the European Climate Pact, which will be launched later this year in December, is really about activating that network and trying to bring people together, to exchange, to increase awareness and knowledge and education, to give the tools to citizens, to local authorities, to the education sector, to help people make that change. I know some of the other speakers this afternoon are very much involved with the education sector. The colleagues from the Abruzzo region, from Lower Silesia, have strong links with academia, and I'm very, very interested to hear their experiences. So what the Pact will do, it will give individuals and organizations the chance to make pledges, to commit to certain lifestyle changes and commitments. But what it will also feature is ambassadors, people that really want to go out and sell and recruit and inspire others. And I'm sure that there are people on this call in this discussion today that could be future EU Climate Pact ambassadors that have a good story to tell from their region, from their council, from their organization, because you've taken steps on this journey already that your partners in Europe are still preparing for. So let's help them to learn the lessons and to learn the things that went well, that didn't go so well, so they can avoid mistakes or teething problems along the way. And I think that's what the Climate Pact will really bring, is a chance for Europeans to see what each other is doing, to see what similar sized towns are doing, to see what similar companies are doing, all of these kind of things. John listed in his introduction many of the policies, many of the things that fall under the Green Deal umbrella. As I said, it's really We could talk about it for days and hours, and of course that this is a whole week of programs dedicated to the Green Deal. We could talk about biodiversity, about nature, about greening our cities, about agriculture and organic produce. We could talk more about the circular economy, about recycling, about waste management and food waste. These are all things which are a part of your daily lives, and I'd be happy to follow up on these conversations. But I think for me, the thing that I want to close on as I wrap up is to talk about the money. I think we're in a difficult economic situation. Some countries, some regions are touched more than others. And I think the European Commission has really stepped up to the plate when we've put on the table our recovery package. So the next generation EU program as presented by President von der Leyen. It sits together with the EU's next multi-annual budget, the 7-year budget, and you're coming to a sum of around 1.8 trillion euros, which is, it's significant by anybody's accounting. And around a third of that money is going to be dedicated to climate action, to sustainability. So the resources are definitely there for this transition, despite the difficult times we're coming through, and Europe is really helping you, I hope, in the regions to make the investments you need. So to conclude, as far as the European Commission concerned, the political will is there to make this change. The financial resources are there to make this change. And the desire to work closely hand in hand with regional organizations is really at the heart of our thinking. So I'm really looking forward to the rest of this conversation this afternoon. I'm looking forward to the conversations which will follow it. And I'm really looking forward to seeing how the European Green Deal comes into being, comes to life through all your interventions. Thank you very much.
Excellent. Thanks very much, Tim, for that. That was a great exercise in setting the scene and talking through from the EU level what's going on. So now we come on to the regional presentations. And sorry, just to say, Tim is going to stay around, and there'll be the opportunity to ask questions later on once we get through the list of regional case studies. We come to the regional case studies now. We've got 5 of them. Together with my other Brussels office colleagues, we've sat together and we've worked through this agenda and brought you this program today over a period of many, many months. It isn't just something that we put together in the final few weeks leading up to today. The planning process starts back in end of January, I think it is, and we had several meetings going through the spring and over the summer. So we brought together this program. We think it's an interesting and complementary approach. And we're going to start with my region, Hampshire. And I'm pleased to say that we've got Ms. Chitra Nadaraja, who has done a fantastic job in developing the climate change action plan for the county of Hampshire in central southern England. You've probably heard of the ports of Southampton and Portsmouth. And Chitra is going to talk through some innovative approaches to the Hampshire Climate Action Plan. Chitra, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Share my screen. Okay, so my name is Chitra Nadaraja. I'm the Strategic Manager for Climate Change at Hampshire County Council. I actually only started this role officially in November last year because, like everybody else, the climate emergency suddenly became a high priority. And in the County Council, we decided to pull together a team to actually lead on this work. Before I get to sort of the climate change work, it's important to set the context of how this came about in Hampshire. In 2018, we kicked off a piece of work called the Hampshire 2050 Commission, which brought together experts across various fields to present to a set of commissioners that we selected from the Hampshire area to look at what the key risks were to Hampshire to 2050. Now, this was before the global movement was starting in terms of Greta Thunberg and Extinction Rebellion. So we were a little bit ahead of the curve. And the commissioners actually identified climate change as the single most important risk to Hampshire. So we kind of agreed back in 2018, late 2019, that we were going to focus on climate change, and then the sort of global movement started and we declared a climate emergency last year alongside hundreds and hundreds of other organisations in the UK. So Hampshire County Council has published its strategy. We published it in the summer of this year alongside an action plan, which I'll talk about in a bit more detail. The strategy is unique in that it has two targets within it, one to be carbon neutral by 2050, and the second one, which I think is the unique one, which is to build resilience to a 2-degree rise in temperature. And the County Council's targets are for the whole county area. They're not just for the organisation. Hampshire's been working on climate change for over 20 years. We've been very involved in European projects on climate change over the years. And we felt that it was really now important that we start to look at the Hampshire area. We have done a lot of work on our own assets, and we're well on target to deliver carbon neutrality within our own assets. So I'm just going to share a little animation to show you what our strategy is about. There's no sound to this, just images. So I think that very much shows you that we're very much in line with everything that Tim was talking about in terms of what we're working on for climate change. The way that we are approaching this is that we believe that every single part of the services that we deliver across Hampshire County Council has to take account of climate change. So this is how we've designed our strategy, and it's how we've designed our action plan. So we have an extensive action plan that tries to target every single service within the organisation, because as a climate change team, we cannot deliver that on our own. And I think it's really important that we embed climate change into every single thing that we do. However, we also recognise that even by doing that, we probably won't be able to meet our targets. So we're developing what we've called a strategic framework for each of those sectors that were outlined in the strategy. And what this framework does is it looks at the bigger scale projects that we have to do in order to deliver our 2050 targets. And they, again, very much fall in line with what's been outlined by Tim in terms of residential emissions are one of our top priorities. So we're looking to develop some major programs around retrofitting, obviously looking for funding from the national government, the UK national government, to be able to deliver that, but we want to make sure that we're prepared for when that funding is delivered. We'll work very closely with our district partners to be able to deliver that. A significant change is needed to be able to really deliver the savings required. So we're also doing a lot of work on behavioural insights. We've done a lot of baseline research to understand what our communities and residents think about climate change, what they're willing to do, what they're not willing to do, and why they're not willing to do things. So that when we start to approach them about changing their behaviours or their lifestyles, we understand how to communicate with them and how to encourage them to change their behaviours long term. And this cuts across everything that's outlined here. So residential, buildings and infrastructure, energy, circular economy, waste, natural environment. And we'll be looking to work from grassroots up. So we've launched a number of projects, grassroots projects, to look at energy generation from the community energy scale. We're looking at delivering a phone line to help residents be able to ask questions about how they can deliver renewable energy or energy efficiency schemes in their own homes. We've launched what there is called a greening campaign, which is very much a household-led campaign to look at how you can make changes in your own home. So everything that we do is looking at it from both the grassroots element, where it's bottom up, but also from top down in terms of big policy changes required across the county area to be able to deliver those targets. To help us do this and to be transparent about how we're doing this, we are a public sector organisation and we are accountable to our residents, and they have said that they want to see us embedding climate change into everything that we do. It's one thing to say it, it's another thing to actually do it. So we've developed 2 decision tools working with the Carbon Trust that will help us assess the impact of every key decision that we make on climate change, but also assess the impact of climate change on every key decision that we make. So we have 2 sets of tools, one for mitigation and one for resilience. The mitigation tool will assess carbon emissions from every project policy that goes through a key decision, and that will be published alongside our decision reports. And the resilience tool will assess how those projects are building their resilience against a future climate. So making sure that what we do now is fit for purpose in the future. So these tools are just being rolled out and they will become part of our decision program from April next year, and they will be mandatory for the whole organization. And we really hope that this will not only help us embed climate change, but it will also be an education process for all of the officers within the County Council working on every single project that we've talked about, from environment projects right through to children's services and adult social care, to really understand how they can take account of climate change. So it's a very short presentation, but everything I've spoken about and everything that we're doing going forward is held on our Hampshire Climate Change website. It is very extensive and it's there to really be the one-stop for all of the information going forward. And we'll be continuing to make sure that that's updated. And I've also included the Hampshire 2050 website there because there was a lot of information that came out of that the hearings that we undertook to deliver that piece of work. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chitra. That was excellent, very comprehensive. We'll come back to, as mentioned, we'll come back to questions at the end so we can keep the flow of the presentations. It's very difficult to keep these online events interactive, but we will save some time towards the end, and there will be the opportunity for participants to pose some questions to all of the speakers, with the exception of the next speaker, who's Dr. Mcphee, I hope I'm saying this right, Mcphee Zate from Lower Silesia. He is the director for the Institute for Territorial Development. Dr. Zate is not feeling particularly well today, so his camera is going to be off, and unfortunately he has to leave directly after this presentation, but he has kindly managed to soldier on, and he's going to deliver his presentation after all, which is entitled Bottom-up Regional Initiatives to Support the Energy Transition Towards Climate Neutrality. Dr. Zate, please, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. I start to share my presentation. I hope you see that.
Is that full screen? Yes, click on it.
Yes. So good afternoon. My name is Mcphee Zate and I represent the region of Lower Silesia. First of all, please accept my best wishes of good health and lots of energy for everyone. Today we are talking about energy, so I wish everyone energy for positive changes. So today I will briefly present the approach planned in our region, our bottom-up regional initiative to support the energy transition towards climate neutrality in Lower Silesia. As introduction, I will present some basic information. As you see, Lower Silesia is located in southwestern Poland on the border with Germany and the Czech Republic. So we are a cross-border region. The region is home for almost 3 million people with an area of almost 20,000 square kilometers. Nearly 70% of the population live in cities and towns. So almost of the third of them, 1/3 of them lives in the functional area of the Lower Silesian capital city, call it in Polish Wrocław, Breslau, Vratislav. This is what the city is called in German and Czech language. Lower Silesia is a coal region. In the 1990s, black coal mines were closed down. This caused a deep social crisis, and the process of social and economic transformation has not been completed until today. There is also the fourth largest lignite power plant in Poland, located in Lower Silesia. So energy policy in Poland is directed by the central government. However, the region has ambitions to support the energy transformation. And in Lower Silesia, as a regional government, we create a strategy for activities supporting the transformation of the energy sector. As you see on the presentation, the goal we have is Lower Silesia 2050, a climate neutral region, like part of Europe, and Europe should also be a neutral, climate neutral continent. The first action current underway is to prepare a diagnosis of the energy situation in the region. We want to cooperate with small businesses, prosumers, and energy clusters, and support the development of distributed generation. The second phase, planned for the beginning of next year, is to define specific objectives and sources financing the transformation. The regional energy strategy should help to implement EU funds, including those from the Just Transition mechanism. The collaboration with the Just Transition mechanism and the preparation of territorial just transition plans is very important in this case. But we also plan implement the regional money for the transition process, and also maybe is it or will be possible in the future to implement the state financing in this process. The objectives of support we see today are reducing of CO2 emissions, development of distributed energy system based on renewable energy sources, implementation of prosumer energy model, of course, respect for natural resources and the environment based on the sustainable development policies. And what I especially find very important is high energy efficiency of equipment, buildings, transport, and settlement systems. I underline settlement systems because it's very strong connected to spatial planning. And this interconnection of spatial planning and strategy efficiency and energy efficiency is a new approach in our regional strategy for energy. The process of transforming the energy system and improving energy efficiency will largely depend on spatial planning. How we design cities and housing estates, how we develop the services and transport network will determine the demand of energy. In our decarbonization process, we have to collaborate to correlate many threats. Issues as energy parity, heating, and air quality are also on the agenda. Since 2018, the Lower Silesia anti-smoke resolutions have been in force. So we inform about bans on usage of certain fuels and promote efficient boilers. So it's pictures, there are pictures from the campaign, information campaign. We do it under the name Choose Clean Rules. And this is the motto of our information campaign related to anti-smoke resolutions. But clean rules are more than only clean air. in the near future, we want to educate the citizens about waste management, sustainable transport, clean water, clean soil, and short food supply chain. All those things are interconnected, strongly interconnected, and of course interconnected with spatial planning on the regional level. So we are in the process of preparation of this energy strategy for the region, and we keep the clean RALs. So keep clean RALs and keep the Green Deal. Thank you for your attention. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Zate. And please get well very, very soon.
Thank you very
okay,
much.
so we shall gather together any questions that come for you, and we'll pass those through to you so you can respond directly. Let's move on to our next case study now. In fact, the next two case studies are related to hydrogen. We're going to the Netherlands, to the northern Netherlands provinces, and I'm very pleased to say we have a case study on the Hydrogen District Hogeveen project. I hope I said that correctly. Convert our natural gas economy into an emission-free hydrogen economy. And to deliver that, we have Mr. Bastiaan Meijer, Renewable Energy Project Director for Entra, part of the Rendo holding in the Netherlands. Please, Bastiaan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Sean. Hopefully the sound is good, and I will share my screen. So, hello, good afternoon. My name is Bastiaan Meijer, and I work as a sustainable energy project developer at Entra, which is part of the distribution system operator Rendo, operating in the northern Netherlands. I'm responsible for the project development of various hydrogen projects and part of the project management team of the Hydrogen District Hogeveen, including the hydrogen supply to a residential area. This Hydrogen District Hogeveen is part of multiple initiatives in the northern Netherlands to convert our natural gas economy into an emission-free hydrogen economy. Not only by talking, but especially by doing. The Hydrogen District Hogeveen is a pilot project that aims to demonstrate how hydrogen can make an important contribution to a sustainable energy system in the existing built environment. After all buildings in the Netherlands should be carbon-free in 2050, in line with the Paris Agreement. So let me get into the project itself. Next slide, yeah. Here you see the project's residential area, and now driven on natural gas, which will be converted into an emission-free hydrogen economy in 8 years. That is the goal. And by demonstrate how that can be achieved, we add another possible solution for a carbon-neutral heat supply in the built environment, next to, for example, all electric and central heating infrastructure. Theoretical research already shows that hydrogen might be a technical feasible, affordable, reliable, and safe solution. And that is what we want to demonstrate. By reusing the existing natural gas network and replacing the current natural gas-fired heating boilers with hydrogen boilers. The most crucial role in this demonstration are the inhabitants, of course, and their acceptance of this technology. I will come back to that later. So this is the neighborhood with, on the right side, over 1,000 existing buildings, and on the far left, at the top, an area where 80 houses will be built starting in 2021. And on the left side, below, a location of the NAM, which is used to clean and collect natural gas from the region and distribute it to other locations. Here you can say that the old fossil gas world will meet the new renewable gas, and existing equipment and knowledge will be used. From this gas location, hydrogen will be distributed to the new houses by standard pipelines used for natural gas, and during the years, step by step, into the existing neighborhood. You can say that the new houses are the demonstration site for the existing houses. We go step by step in the existing neighborhood for an optimal learning curve and give the inhabitants the chance to get used to the idea of hydrogen in the houses. In the houses, we replace, among other things, the boiler and the gas meter and turn cooking from gas to electric. So, how does it look like? First, we have phase 1, that are the newly built houses in year 2021. Then, step by step, into the existing neighborhood, eventually getting to all over 1,000 existing houses. However, where does the hydrogen come from? So, we have the hydrogen system. Here you see the hydrogen supply system in 3 phases. This is phase 1. The first houses will be provided by green hydrogen arriving on site by tube trailers from various locations in the northern Netherlands. Green hydrogen. Near to the NAM location, as earlier mentioned, the hydrogen will be unloaded and through the storage, which is number 3, and the gas receiving station, we call it a GOS, is number 4, into the distribution network with the same configuration as a natural distribution network and get eventually into the houses. In the second phase, it's showed here, we add the local production of green hydrogen and eventually connect to the GasUnie hydrogen backbone after 2027. This is an important connection regarding the certainty of hydrogen supply for the houses in the future, and we have to deal with the imbalance between renewable electricity supply and heat demand of the houses. The next step to a next system phase depends on the timing of converting the houses. The connection with the solar power and power grid is also very interesting because the power grid around Hogeveen is full. No new renewable electricity can be placed because it cannot be facilitated by the grid, the power grid. This is even more reasons to investigate how hydrogen can play a role in this. The hydrogen district goal is to demonstrate the use of hydrogen in the existing built environment and not to test or experiment. For testing, we use different locations. One of the most important one is on Entrance, which is a public-private partnership in the northern Netherlands, where scientists, students, business, authorities, and social institutes all come together to share their knowledge. On Entrance, BK Combustion Technology is testing 3 heating boilers for over 3 months now, and Rendo, the company I work for, and other companies test their equipment in the same time, and we learn every day. For example, fundamental things as how does hydrogen burn, how the heating boilers perform, whether the natural gas meter is accurate, and how the in-house gas part performs. All already described in theoretical research as being suitable for hydrogen and now tested into practice. As introduced in the second slide, the social acceptance is crucial for this pilot. So we started in a very early phase contacting and informing the inhabitants. On May 2019, to be exact, over 400 inhabitants showed up with relevant questions about payment, safety, spatial planning, and impact in their houses. Important topics we all have to address. For example, by making it affordable on the short term by subsidy, and introduce an example hydrogen house to show the impact of hydrogen in their houses. After this general meeting, a special council of inhabitants participates in the plans and advise the project management team. So we start the actual building of the new houses next year, but still a lot is to do. Not only in a technical sense, using hydrogen as an alternative to natural gas is still an innovative concept and in an early stage of development. Current gas supply regulation, for example, don't always offer enough room for further development. We work together with an open mind on establishing a suitable framework with regarding to standards and legal topics. We need our, we call it a polderland mentality, to cooperate with government, industry, and education. And of course, we need final support, especially to bridge the innovation gap and make sure the inhabitants in the pilot pay not more than they pay now. Last point are the experiments, which are needed so we can be sure we implement safe and reliable. As earlier mentioned, we cooperate with entrants for experiments, but that is not all. The last 2 years, 22 partners participated in the hydrogen network to research and develop the plans which will be published next month. 22 members representing the government, higher education, and the business community, and 6 of them now take the lead to make it actually happen. This research and development with 22 members was supported by the Dutch Enterprise Agency of the Ministry of Economic Affairs. Last point of this presentation, we as a project are proud to be part of the Hydrogen Valley Europe, situated in the northern Netherlands. The Hydrogen Valley received subsidy granted by the Fossil Fuel and Hydrogen Joint Undertaking of the European Commission. And also we found co-funding by our province of Drenthe. Step by step, we can make it happen together. Thank you.
Bedankt, Bastiaan. That was a very detailed and comprehensive presentation. So moving on now to our next presentation, we're going to the conglomerate lead partner, Lower Saxony, and we have Dr. Jens Sprotte, who is the commercial director for Alstom Transport in Germany and Austria. And Dr. Sprotte is going to talk about towards clean and future-oriented mobility with hydrogen, the hydrogen train. Dr. Sprotte, please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, thank you very much for introduction. Hopefully you can understand me. You can hear me?
Please continue.
Yeah, please. Sorry about not to see me on the screen because I have some connection issues, but I think we can solve this issue. Yeah, I'd like to introduce myself. Jens Sprotte, commercial director for Alstom in Germany, and I'm the responsible for hydrogen here in Germany. Can you jump to the first slide, please? Thank you. For Alstom, the issue of emission-free mobility is one of the most important topics of our time. Therefore, we wanted to show that it is already possible to share the experience of green mobility today with the passengers. The result you can see there, it's our island. Our island is our ideal solution for lines without catenary. And for us as Alstom, it was very important to show that this mobility is possible, so we built 2 prototypes. These 2 prototypes are already homologated, and they were in passenger service from 2018, more than 1 year in northern part of Lower Saxony. They achieved around 2,000 kilometers, and these trains are totally zero emission trains. Next slide, please. So from the technology point of view, we want to keep it quite simple. So we only removed the power pack and the diesel tank, and we installed a hydrogen propulsion system there. And I like to draw your attention not only on these topics. I think the unique point for us is that we integrated there a very special energy management system, which is more or less a European construction between our entity in Germany and our colleagues in the Alstom company in Belgium and France. And this is a very unique solution because we combined a more or less computer system with a GPS. And this is a very intelligent solution to save energy. Next slide, please. So as you can see, our history and our schedule is a tight schedule from the train perspective. So our idea raised in 2014. Then we building up the trains quite fast. And these two prototype train were homologated or achieved the German homologation in 2018. And in the meantime, we are building the pre-series of 41 trains. And these trains will go into operation, 14 of them in the northern part of Lower Saxony, 2021. And 27 trains are going to the region of Frankfurt. So saying again, hydrogen mobility is not a dream. It is possible to drive emission-free in Europe. Next slide, please. So, and this is the business case in Lower Saxony. Like I said before, Lower Saxony was so kind to order 14 island hydrogen trains. These trains are already tested, 200,000 kilometers in passenger service. The start will be end of 2021, beginning of 2022. And we have a hydrogen supplier with us, the company Linde. They are building or start to build up a big hydrogen refueling station in Bremerförde. And we are quite honored and glad that the European Commission and Lower Saxony was so kind for funding this program. Next slide, please. But, and this is for me a very important point, we must come to the next step, because the next step is the combination and use of green hydrogen and mobility, the so-called sector coupling. If we succeed, this will be not only a change in mobility, but also in the energy sector, because if we are able to combine green hydrogen with all kinds of mobility issues, like trucks, like logistic concepts or waste trucks, or I don't know, we are able to get a real step ahead and to achieve our climate goals. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Spotter, for that interesting presentation. I noticed that there are a few questions coming in, which is great. Keep them coming, and we will come back to those in the Q&A section after the next presentation. So our last presentation, last but not least, saving the best till last, we have from the Abruzzo region in southern Italy, Miss Iris Flacco, who is going to talk about Abruzzo region strategies and green priorities for the post-COVID recovery. Mrs. Flacco is the head of Department of Energy Policy, Air Quality, National Environmental Information System and Mining Resources of the territory Abruzzo region in Italy. Please, Mrs. Flacco, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Interesting, very, very interesting. Hello, everyone, and thank you all participants. It is a great opportunity to exchange ideas and experience, especially in such unprecedented time brought by COVID pandemic. As you may know, Region Abruzzo is located in the center of Italy on the Adriatic Sea side. Next, please. Abruzzo region is deeply committed to reach the EU energy and climate goals. For these regions, for this reason, it runs an with forces the integration of different plans and tools, and above all, the regional strategy on sustainable development, which the region is working at in partnership with the Ministry of Environment and other Italian regions. The integrated plan on climate and energy. The regional climate profile the Climate Atlas and the guideline for the elaboration of the regional climate change adaptation, the adaptation plan have been realized, and now we are collecting the climate data and updating the energy zones with the support of our university. Next, please. This strategy refers to the governance of the whole territory and is based on the following pillar: bottom-up strategy, the setting up of a regional task force and coordination of all departments, plans, and programs by the Service of Energy, scientific support of Abruzzo University, participatory approach, that is direct involvement of citizens and stakeholders, local government, energy agency, private agency, industries, association, research institute, and so on. Next, please. Our governance and strategy are shared with the national and international association and in the framework of EU projects carried out by the Regione Abruzzo. Next, please. Regions and cities, as here in Abruzzo, have been on the front line during the last month. We have to focus effort to protect the health and welfare of our citizens. However, the European Green Deal is to be the core of the recovery post-lockdown for COVID. It has to suit the criteria and target of sustainable development, circular economy, and climate change to reach the 2030 and 2050 target. Since this configuration will lead to economical safety and stable recovery of the economy and will increase our resilience to future pandemics. In the recovery post-COVID, our region is boosting the energy and the climate issues already begun before the emergency and accelerating the initiative already planned in the past month. According to the principles of the bottom-up level and the participatory approach, the regional government is confronting with the local actors, stakeholders, municipality, local companies, and university to collect the priority project and initiative that can be immediately implemented according with the real need of the territory. In parallel, we are also identifying the relevant financing lines such as the Next Generation Europe at the 2021-2027 funds. Next, please. Regione Abruzzo priority are related to digitization and accessibility to all of a stable and fast internet network, also to promote the smart working. New technologies, especially in transport and with focus of hydrogen. We are running working tablets with local, national, and international companies, university, and research center, and also with other Italian regions as regards the application of hydrogen technology on the rail, port, and airport. And we have already identified specific projects to realize immediately. Energy efficiency intervention on public building with particular attention to the integration of energy efficiency and seismic retrofitting, and also promotion of public and private initiative based on the successful experience on the service of energy with the RDF ROPE 2014-2020. Total financial endowment is euro 7 million, 24 municipalities have been funded. Intervention of energy efficiency carried out in only 3 months. Smart electric grid and public smart lighting system, especially in sport facilities, which facilitates the aggregation of people, especially in the most remote area of the region, are also priorities highlighted by our municipality. Sustainable and slow mobility is another key topic, and we are working at the bike sharing and cycling paths along the Adriatic coast, which should then connect with the internal area lighting up with the railway network and the strategic point to reach urban center. Education, training, and information company are ongoing for all the above top priority in order to make all citizens more participative, aware, and active actors. Next, please. So this was a quick overview of the action we are implementing to accelerate and reach energy and climate transition. We strongly believe to reach these goals, regions and cities have to keep on sharing experience and promoting debates from Europe, towards Europe. Please do not hesitate to contact us for more information and of course for working together at projects and initiatives. Do not forget to visit this link and enjoy Tipico d'Abruzzo, my favorite story, an original and engaging storytelling that tells the territory through some of its most representative products, such as Parrozzo and saffron, highlighting the aspect of a peculiar tradition and the link with the environment. A story in image that show how 0 kilometers and zero emission products contribute to build the region identity and the sustainable development. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Flacco, and we look forward to our continued collaboration through the Assembly of European Regions, which Hampshire is a Halter Vice Presidency post in. Excellent, good. Well, thank you for all of the regional presentations. We now have just under 20 minutes for questions and answers, and I noticed some of them have been coming through. The first one, perhaps I'll take from the top, from Jana S. To Chitra on Brexit, relating to how will that impact on the ability to continue to do funding projects with European partners. Perhaps if I could just say before handing to Chitra on this one that there is obviously the negotiations still ongoing. We're hopeful that the deal will be reached, and if that is the case, we're hopeful that the United Kingdom will still be able to associate to programs like Horizon Europe, the Research and Innovation Programme. And yeah, I mean, if that comes to pass, then clearly there's a clear opportunity to continue European project work on that particular programme. And of course, other countries outside the European Union are equally involved in these programs like Israel, Turkey, Norway, etc., Switzerland. But perhaps I could just pass over to Chitra to pick up on that particular question.
Thanks, John. I think that's probably the key answer to it, actually. We're not directly involved in any European projects at this moment in time, so therefore we're not reliant on that European funding in order to deliver the climate change work programme that I set out today. What we'll be really keen to do, however, is once we have got a Brexit deal and we're a bit further down the line with the projects that we're trying to develop, we will definitely be looking to get some European projects underway if we can. So we are optimistic that we can still be engaged with Europe. As I said, we do have a long history of working on European projects. I myself ran an ERDF project on adaptation to climate change back in 2008. So it doesn't affect our work going forward, but we certainly hope to be able to take advantage of it in the future.
Good, thank you for that. Next question is from Antonio Pepe. For Bastian, have you measured the social and economical benefits of hydrogen as an energy resource? Moreover, do you think that there are some risks in implementing this system? And if any, how do you manage them? Please, Bastian, can you give an answer to that question?
Yeah, I can try. Yeah, thank you for this question. Yeah, of course, there are risks. It is an innovation pilot. And as I said, it is hydrogen gives our perspective for a sustainable, affordable, safe solution in the built environment with little difficulties in converting the houses. But that is not for all houses. So we have to be very careful not to consider it as a holy grail to all houses. And in that statement, affordability, we did measure that, but that is also behind the desk. The long-term models show that hydrogen have perspective in an economical sense. They are beneficial. especially when you compare it to all electric and central heating systems. But still, it isn't put into practice yet. So what we want to do is get it into practice, and then we get the actual date and actual experience from inhabitants, and can actually measure the things you mentioned in your question. And that is the main goal of our project.
Okay, and a follow-up question then from Francis M. Have you conducted any skills audits for the amount of technicians and engineers that you will require to install the hydrogen system within the 1,000 homes? Again, to Bastiaan.
Again, a good question. Yeah, we did that in the experiments already. And we strongly work together with the other distribution system operators in the Netherlands. Also in the Northern Netherlands with all education institutes, because we find it very important to have safety work instructions and certifications for all employees that work with the hydrogen system. That is also the case with the natural gas system, and will also be the case with the hydrogen system.
Okay, thank you for that. Question for Dr. Spotter. If hydrogen trains would also be used in the future for longer distances, we would need enough hydrogen fuel stations. Are there already plans for covering larger areas with hydrogen fuel stations? Is there a need to finance these fuel stations by using European funding? Please, Dr. Spotter, can you pick that question up?
So no, from our strategy right now, our focus is on regional trains, because the lines, I can speak right only for Germany, for high-speed lines or long-distance lines are well equipped with catenary, so there is no need to put or integrate hydrogen trains in there. But we see there a huge possibility in the regional sector. So give you an example, 40% of the German regional lines have no catenaries, and so we see in this regional passenger transport the big and the only niche for the hydrogen trains.
Okay, thanks for that. Perhaps I could ask a question directly to Tim Mcphee at the European Commission, and it relates to structural funds for the next programming period, 2021 to 27. I recall that for the current structural funds program, smart specialization strategies were a requirement for regions to be able to draw down their structural funds envelopes. Is there any consideration that having a climate action plan could be a requirement to do the same under the next programming period? Maybe I've missed this because my focus is not on structural funds coming from the UK, but how is that being sort of taken on board in the next programming period for structural funds? Are you able to answer that?
Unfortunately, I can't answer that one, John. Structural funds is also something that I don't know that well. It's not under my direct responsibility, but I'm happy to check on that and get back to you.
Okay, that's fine. All right, a couple of other questions that we had pre-prepared from my colleague at the Abruzzo Regional Office, Leo. What are the biggest strengths of the regional governments in order to reinforce a green and inclusive Europe and to implement the European Green Deal in their respective territories? Okay, well, perhaps I could ask that one to Mrs. Flacco, if she would perhaps like to field that question.
Thank you. Okay. I said before, the strength is the contact with the territory, businesses and citizens. Regional government know the peculiarity of the territory, its need, its emergencies and its resources. Therefore, local authority can evaluate which are the most urgent measures to develop from a sustainable perspective. This could also be further developed by participatory projects that involve the business, organization, association, university, and citizen in the decision-making process in order to evaluate together the measures to be implemented. Moreover, the regions, also in the context of European project and network, are at the forefront in the change and best practice and in the application on the territory of new technology and pilot project, as already mentioned above. This is the focus. Thank you.
Thank you, Mrs. Flacco, for that response. Another question from my colleague at the Northern Netherlands office, Mara. She wanted to ask the following question. Engaging citizens in making the green transition is crucial to make a project work. What is the opinion of citizens in your region with regard to building energy efficient homes? What best practices of citizen engagement can you share with other regions? Perhaps I can pass that one to Bastian, as it's come from your regional office.
I'm also curious about the other regions about this topic, but let's say we also conduct a measurement on, from the desk to all inhabitants and did a survey. And the survey actually showed that the people are willing to contribute to the energy transition, but also a little bit not scared, but they are very curious about how will it affect my daily life. So what do I have to pay? How about people getting into my house behind my front door? They want to be absolutely sure that they get all the information about that topics. And I think that is also crucial to really point out in projects what is in it for the inhabitants. So that is the main focus for us, to get into contact with the inhabitants. And as I mentioned before, we have a special council from inhabitants of the residential area, and they advise our project management board on various topics regarding the houses.
Okay, thank you for that. Would anyone else like to come in on that particular question from other regions who have spoken today? Energy efficient homes, clearly a really important subject, as Tim has outlined earlier.
Yep,
please, Chitra.
As I said in my presentation, we have done some work looking at behavioural insights into how our residents would respond to a lot of issues related to climate change. I think one thing that we've learned is one size doesn't fit all. So the way that we're planning to approach any campaigns to try and discuss with residents some of the changes that they might want to make in their own homes is to get the communications very much depending on who they are, what their background is, based on mosaic data. So we're going to be doing that across the winter. So starting in the next few weeks, actually, we're starting a campaign about getting ready for the winter, particularly because of COVID. A lot of people will be working from home, and we'll see probably an increase in their energy bills. So we want to start to raise their awareness of how they can take action to reduce their bills, how they can take advantage of some of the funding opportunities that are coming through from the national government. And as I said, we've also launched a phone line so that they can call up the Environment Centre, which is a trusted independent centre, to ask for information. So I think it's really important that we have that means of understanding how our residents want to receive information, and also what information is relevant to each of the demographic groupings, that we don't just expect everyone to respond in the same way or to behave in the same way. So we're really looking at much more tailored communications than sort of one campaign.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Chitra. If no one else wants to come in on that particular question, I think we're pretty much out of questions now. Tim, I don't know if you want to elaborate any more on the renovation wave that you talked about a bit earlier, maybe in relation to the next round of funding programs, 2021 to 27. How will something like energy efficiency buildings be addressed in the new programs that are being designed at the moment? Do you have any insight into that?
Yeah, thanks, John. I mean, I think one of the things about renovation is that there's so many different pots of funding that could be accessed for renovation projects. You know, one thing is depending whether it's private or public buildings, the scale of the projects. Obviously, what we published last week, actually, with our communication, there's what we call a staff working document, which gives lots of good examples of projects that have been conducted in different regions, and how different models have been set up to draw down funding and to accelerate the renovation rate. So I think that's really worth a read for everybody. The other thing to say is that under the recovery program, so the one part of that, the recovery and resilience facility has this notion of flagship initiatives in it. And one of the flagship initiatives, which we asked all the national governments to think about prioritizing, is called Renovate, which it does exactly what it says on the tin. I mean, it's encouraging member states to dedicate recovery funding to this area, and we're really hoping to see a lot of governments taking up that opportunity, and I'm sure they're talking with the regions about how they develop those plans. So yeah, I think in general, I would say that there's not one pot of money, there's not one figure that you can put on it, but there's really lots of different opportunities from the future EU budget to invest in renovation. And I'm sure you know that's something that can come with multi-regional projects as much as it can come from kind of region by region.
Great, thanks very much, Tim. That was a very complete answer, and we're pretty much at the end of this workshop now. Just to remind everyone that there are a whole raft of workshops going on right through this week as part of European Week of Regions and Cities. Of course, it's also the European Green Week as well, so there'll be lots of activities that you can tap into online through the portal of the European Commission. And please have a look at the broader programme if it's something that you're new to. So tap into that. I'd like to say thank you again to all of the speakers for their excellent presentations, particularly to the Ministerin, Frau Horner. Thank you very much for that address. And to all of you for attending today's event. I salute you for your participation, and stay safe.